Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Excited to be here.
Today, we're going to unpack DAM Capital Advisors Limited.
A prominent player in India's investment banking world.
Exactly. And they've got this IPO coming up, so we're going to try to figure out if it's worth a closer look.
Yeah, we're going to be digging into all the details using their draft red herring prospectus and red herring prospectus. Those are like our primary sources.
Okay, so let's get this show on the road, huh?
Let's jump right in.
DAM Capital. What's the origin story? How did they get started?
Well, believe it or not, the company's roots go all the way back to 1993.
Wow, that's a while ago.
It is. They were originally incorporated as SS Kantilal Ishwarlal Securities Private Limited.
Quite a mouthful.
It is a bit, right? But then in 2007, the name changed to IDFC SSKI Securities Private Limited.
Okay, and then?
Then, fast forward to 2020, Dharmesh Anil Mehta comes into the picture.
Okay, so this is where things start to get interesting.
You could say that. Mesa acquires the company. And that's when they really start moving towards their current path. They even changed the name to DAM Capital Advisors Limited.
Got it. So they've been around for a while, but they've gone through some transformations along the way.
Definitely.
All right, enough about the history lesson. Let's talk about what they actually do. You mentioned investment banking, right?
Right. They've got two main revenue streams, advisory services and brokerage.
Okay, let's start with the advisory stuff. What kind of advice are we talking about?
They help companies with major financial decisions, like mergers and acquisitions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, or raising capital.
So like helping companies go public.
Exactly. They guide companies through that whole IPO process. They bring their expertise to the table.
So they're like financial strategists for big companies.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. They help companies make those big moves, navigate the financial landscape.
Got it. And what about the other revenue stream? Brokerage.
That's all about the equity market. They facilitate trades for clients who want to buy and sell shares.
So they're kind of playing both sides of the field, advising the company's A&D, helping the investors.
In a way, yes.
And all of this is happening within the context of India's capital market, which, from what I've heard, is pretty hot right now.
It's booming. One of the fastest growing in the world, actually.
Yeah, India's economy seems to be on fire these days.
It's a lot of factors coming together, really. You have a huge young population, more and more people are getting into mobile trading, and digital payments are just exploding.
So it's like the perfect storm for investment opportunities.
You could say that.
But that also means more competition, right? How does DAM Capital stand out in such a crowded market?
That's a great question. They've carved out a niche for themselves, particularly in what's known as ECM transactions.
ECM.
Equity capital market transactions.
Okay, break that down for me. What exactly are those?
It includes things like IPOs, of course, but also qualified institutional placements, or QIPs.
QIPs. What are those?
It's a way for companies that are already listed to raise capital quickly from certain investors.
Got it. So ECM is all about companies and their stock.
Exactly. And DAM Capital helps them navigate those processes. And they've got a pretty impressive track record. Since 2019, they've executed 72 ECM transactions.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is. And that includes 27 IPOs.
27 IPOs. That's incredible. But are they putting all their eggs in the IPO basket?
Not at all. They're also quite active in the mergers and acquisitions space, guiding companies through those complex deals.
Okay, so they've got their fingers in a lot of pies.
They do. Plus, they're active in the block trades market. You know, those large-scale transactions between big institutions.
So they're not relying on just one type of deal. That's good for stability, right?
Definitely. And their client base is pretty diverse, too. They work with corporations, financial sponsors, institutional investors, even family offices.
So they're not overly dependent on any one type of client.
Exactly.
Okay, let's shift gears and talk about their financials. What's the story there?
Well, their recent performance has been pretty impressive. Their EBITDA has been steadily climbing.
EBITDA earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization.
You got it.
So their EBITDA's up.
Oh.
That's a good sign.
It's a positive indicator for sure. It shows that their core profitability is strong.
And what about their PAT, their profit after tax?
That's been expanding too, and their PAT margin is looking quite healthy, which means they're keeping a good chunk of their revenue as profit.
So all those are green flags for potential investors. Healthy profits, solid growth. It's all looking good so far.
It is. But remember, we're like detectives here.
Right, we can't get ahead of ourselves.
We need to look for those less obvious clues too.
You mean the risks?
Yeah, every investment has risks. And DAM Capital's prospectus outlines a few that we need to dig into.
All right, let's put on our detective hats and see what we can find.
Sounds like a plan.
What kind of risks are we talking about?
Well, one of the big ones is their dependence on those two main revenue streams, advisory fees and brokerage.
Right, we talked about those.
Both of those are heavily influenced by the overall economic climate.
Okay, that makes sense. If the Indian economy takes a hit, their business could suffer, right?
Precisely. And they also highlight the fact that they operate in a highly regulated environment.
India's financial sector is pretty strict, right?
It is. Lots of laws and policies to navigate. Any changes to those regulations could impact DAM Capital's operations.
So it's like they're always walking on eggshells a little bit, always wondering what's going to change next.
You could say that. It definitely adds a layer of uncertainty.
Okay, anything else?
Well, we also need to consider those risks that are inherent to their industry. Market volatility, competition, even cybersecurity threats.
Yeah, no business is immune to those, I guess. So there are definitely some things to keep in mind. But they also have a lot going for them, right? That impressive track record, the diverse client base, the strong financials.
Absolutely. And we can't forget their growth plans. They're looking to expand into new sectors, enhance their research capabilities, even leverage AI.
So they're not just riding the wave, they're actually trying to get ahead of it.
Exactly. But will all of this translate into success? Is this IPO really the golden opportunity it seems to be? Those are the questions we'll dig into in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds like we've got a lot more detective work to do. Can't wait.
Me neither.
All right, so let's pick up where we left off, digging a little deeper into those potential risks.
Yeah, like we were saying, every investment's got to have some, right?
Right. Got to keep our eyes peeled.
And for DAM Capital, a lot of it comes down to the economy.
Oh, right. We were talking about how they rely on those two main revenue streams.
Exactly. Those advisory fees and the brokerage commissions.
So if India's economy starts to sputter,
Yeah, that's going to affect their business, no doubt.
but they do mention diversifying, right?
Yeah.
In the prospectus. Could that help? Like soften the blow a bit?
That's the question, isn't it?
Right.
I mean, sure, having a mix of clients and services could provide some protection.
Yeah.
But you got to think, if there's a serious downturn, it's going to impact pretty much everything.
Okay, so not a magic bullet, but maybe a little bit of a cushion.
Yeah, something like that.
What about those regulatory risks? We were talking about those too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Those are real.
Can you give me an example, like how that could actually play out?
Sure. Let's say SEBI, the Securities and Exchange Board of India, decides to get tougher on how IPOs are priced.
Okay, so stricter regulations.
Right. And that could make it harder for DAM Capital to, find that sweet spot.
Where everyone's happy?
Yeah, where the price is attractive for both the companies going public and the investors.
Tough spot to be in.
It is. And you got to remember, it's not just SEBI, right?
Oh, right. There's more.
You've got the Reserve Bank of India, too, keeping an eye on things.
And the government?
Yep, the government could always step in and change the game.
So much uncertainty.
That's part of the game, I guess.
Speaking of games, what about the competition?
Oh, yeah, can't forget about them.
India's hot market is bound to attract a lot of players.
Definitely. Everyone wants a piece of the pie.
So how does DAM Capital stack up? Do they have any advantages?
Well, for one, they know the Indian market inside and out.
Right, they've been around a while.
Decades, yeah. They've got those connections, the relationships.
That's valuable.
It is. But these days, you got to have more than just a good Rolodex.
Yeah, you got to know your stuff.
Exactly. And DAM Capital's research team, they're top-notch.
Okay, so they've got the brains to back it up.
Yeah, and they're not afraid to use technology, AI, advanced analytics, all that.
So they're keeping up with the times, tech-wise.
They are. But even with all that, you can't eliminate all the risks.
Right. The market's a fickle beast.
You said it. Especially in India, things can change so quickly.
So even if DAM Capital helps a company have a successful IPO, there's no guarantee what happens next.
Nope, the market's going to do what the market's going to do.
Investors need to remember that.
For sure. And speaking of things investors need to remember, we can't forget about cybersecurity.
Oh, right. That's a big one these days.
Huge. DAM Capital, they rely so heavily on technology.
To everything, yeah.
If they get hit with a major breach, it could be devastating.
It's a scary thought.
It is. But they're not just sitting ducks.
They're taking steps to protect themselves.
Yeah. They've invested in security infrastructure, protocols.
Okay, that's good.
And they probably have cyber insurance, too.
Right, to cover those potential losses.
But, it's like a constant arms race.
The bad guys are always trying to stay one step ahead.
That's the reality. Okay, we've talked a lot about risks,
We have.
but let's not forget about Dam Capital's strengths.
Right. Got to keep things balanced.
They've got experience, research capabilities, but what else?
What sets them apart, you mean?
Yeah. What's interesting to me is their ability to adapt.
Like, they're not stuck in the past.
Exactly. They started small, but they've grown, evolved.
They're not afraid of change.
Nope, they're embracing it, and they're really focused on building those long-term relationships.
Of clients, you mean?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not just about closing the deal and moving on.
They want to be partners.
Exactly. And it's clearly working. They've got a really impressive client base.
All right, so they've got the track record, the vision, the client relationship.
They do. But the big question is, what's next?
How's this IPO going to change things?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. And that's what we're going to tackle in the final part of our deep dive.
We're going to look at the opportunities, the challenges, everything that comes with going public.
Can't wait.
Me neither. It's going to be interesting.
Okay, so we've made it to the final act, the climax of our Dam Capital drama.
It's IPO time.
We've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, but now we got to figure out what this IPO really means for their future.
The big question is, will it help them reach new heights, or will it all come crashing down?
All right, let's cut to the chase. What are the biggest benefits they're hoping for with this IPO?
Well, first and foremost, it's about access to capital.
Money, money, money.
Exactly. Becoming a publicly traded company opens up a whole new world of funding opportunities.
So they can raise more money to fuel their growth.
Precisely. They can issue more shares, attract new investors, and really accelerate those ambitious plans. Think about it. Expanding into new sectors, acquiring smaller companies, investing in cutting-edge technology.
So this IPO could give them the resources to make those big moves.
Like a turbo boost for their growth engine.
Makes sense. But it's not just about the money, right?
You're right, there's a reputational aspect to it as well.
Like bragging rights.
Well, it's more than just bragging rights. Going public can really boost their credibility. It's a signal to the market that they've reached a certain level of success and stability.
So it's like a stamp of approval.
Exactly. And that can attract new clients, top talent, maybe even lead to better deals.
Okay, so they get the money, they get the prestige. Sounds like a win-win. But is there a downside?
Well, there's always a trade-off, right? Public companies are under a lot more scrutiny.
More eyes watching their every move.
You got it. They have to answer to shareholders, meet those quarterly earnings expectations, and deal with a whole lot more regulations.
So it's like a bigger stage, but with a lot more pressure to perform.
Yeah, the stakes are definitely higher, and that pressure can sometimes backfire.
How so?
Well, they could end up focusing too much on those short-term profits. Trying to please investors in the short run could mean sacrificing long-term growth opportunities.
So it's about finding that balance, right?
Exactly. They need to keep their eyes on the prize, but they also need to keep those investors happy.
Which is easier said than done.
Definitely not a walk in the park.
But looking at their growth strategy, they seem to have a pretty clear vision.
Yeah, they're not just aiming for bigger, they're aiming for better. They want to expand their research coverage, become even more specialized in certain sectors, and solidify those relationships with clients.
So it's about adding value, not just adding numbers.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But the question is, can they actually pull this off in such a competitive environment?
Right, that's the big challenge.
But their focus on technology, that could be a game changer. They're really embracing AI, those advanced analytics, and all these digital platforms.
So they're betting on tech to give them an edge.
Exactly. But technology is only as good as the people using it.
You need the right team to make it all work.
And that's another challenge. Can they attract and retain that top-level talent? Especially in such a hot industry like finance.
Yeah, the competition for talent is fierce.
It is. But Dam Capital's got a few things going for them. They have a strong reputation, a culture that seems to value innovation, and they're becoming more and more of a global player.
So they're a company that people want to work for.
They've got a good story to tell, for sure. But, you know, even with the best strategy, the best team, there are always those unpredictable factors.
Like what?
Well, the global economy could slow down, new regulations could pop up out of nowhere, geopolitical events could throw a wrench in the works. There are a lot of things outside their control that could impact their performance.
So there's always an element of risk, no matter how well prepared they are.
That's the nature of the game.
And for potential investors, it's a bit of a leap of faith, right?
It is. But it seems like Dam Capital is approaching this strategically, carefully weighing those risks and opportunities.
So we've given our listeners a lot to think about.
We've gone through the ins and outs of the Indian market, Dam Capital's business, and this whole IPO situation.
We've laid out all the pieces of the puzzle, but it's up to each individual to decide if they want to invest.
Exactly. We're not giving any financial advice here.
Just providing some information and context.
Our job is to help people understand the bigger picture.
So there you have it, folks. Our deep dive into Dam Capital Advisors Limited. Hopefully you found this exploration insightful. Remember, do your own research, consult with financial advisors, and make those decisions that are right for you. Until next time, happy investing.
See you next time.